and small, medium business venture, if we were to look at that. So humanitarian type entrepreneurs are owners and directors of independent organizations which have profit and growth as their main goal, and they pursue and exploit opportunities. They're characterized by being creative and innovative, because these small companies who have limited resources and things available to them, they have to be creative and they have to be resourceful. Okay? When I was developing this website, do you think I went out and paid for it to be done? No, I did it myself. Humanitarian entrepreneurs, according to these guys, often start off as being very small, which is very similar to the micro and small entrepreneurial type venture. And they predominantly, and sometimes, grow into managerial type entrepreneurs. So if we were to relate this back to the case study, we can see that maybe Jack Cohen represented a small entrepreneurial venture. And Jack, because he took his money in 1919 after the First World War, and he bought all the excess food stock from the army, and he went to a marketplace and just went out and sold it. So we can see there, he's very similar to an owner, director, independent person who's very classical and representative of the micro entrepreneurial type venture, micro and small entrepreneurial venture. Okay? And later on, Jack Cohen grew into what? A big organization. He grew in, now he was managing it, so he now grew later on into a managerial entrepreneur. Do you see how it's developing? The Entrepreneurs are employees who work for other companies. You can have the entrepreneurial spirit if you work for another company. Are you looking at me for a second? Are you okay?
Yeah, fine.
Yeah. Look this way. So the independent, they work for other companies and they still come up with ideas. How many times have you been in a company and you worked for a company and you come up with your own ideas or better ways of doing things, different savings in terms of processes and practices, or creative ideas? All these are entrepreneurial type traits. Okay? They use their own ventures, but within and for the good of the organization they work for. Okay? They risk their own time and reputation, their job, and the embodiment of entrepreneurship within a large firm. If you are recommending something, you are risking your reputation. Because if the company goes for it and it fails, who are they going to blame? They're going to blame you. Okay, so you are putting your reputation at risk. In some occasions, entrepreneurs progress to start new firms on their own. I know when I was working for a company called Cope & Timmins, they were a manufacturing company selling curtain poles and blinds. I developed their first direct internet. I built it myself, a fully e-commerce website for them. And then I was turning over £250,000. Well, I left there and did it myself. I thought, well, if I don't just designed it for you, I can design it for me too. When they do go for something, being entrepreneurs to become humanitarian entrepreneurs. So what we're saying here is that, they can be an entrepreneur, but then you leave that company and then you become a humanitarian entrepreneur. Because you don't have many resources, you don't have loads of money as the big company. So you start off small. Yes? Okay. And then the managerial business owners. Dyson. What was Dyson when he first started his business? When he first started, what do you think he was? Okay, but which one of the three? Was he small, medium, or large? Small. He was small. So what could he be categorized as? A humanitarian type entrepreneurial venture being a small business. Yes? What would he be? Would he be a prospector, analyzer, defender? What was he? What would he be? Come on. He would be a prospector. In terms of the strategy that he was looking to develop, he would be a prospector. In terms of an entrepreneurial strategy. Yes? Okay. So here we can see, now we've talked about the different entrepreneurial types. So let's go back to the question. The question says, look this way. The question says, examine different types of entrepreneurial ventures. So you looked at Tesco's, you've given 3 definitions, you've talked about entrepreneurial ventures in terms of size, and entrepreneurial ventures in terms of their strategy, according to Miles and Snow. And then you talk about the 3 different types of entrepreneurial types within those entrepreneurial ventures, being humanitarian type entrepreneurial ventures, being small or prospectors. Yeah? Intrapreneurs being employees who work for a medium, large company, or even a small company, and they may leave and become a humanitarian entrepreneur themselves. And then a managerial entrepreneur, where someone's developed something like Jack Cohen or Dyson, and they started off small, then they've grown big, and now they're managing the company, and they're no longer developing the products and ideas as such. But they're managing people who are coming up with the ideas and products. Yes? But that's only half the question answered. Because the question says, examine, we've done that, different types of entrepreneurial ventures. So we've examined it. And we've related it back to the case study, which is Tesco's. But then it also says, explain how these relate to a different typology from different authors. So, the last thing we need to do to answer this question is to look at the different typologies. Now, there are different authors who talks about the different typologies of entrepreneurs. So, Smith, 1967, says there's the craftsman entrepreneur and the opportunist entrepreneur. Collins and Moore, 1970, states that there's the administration entrepreneur and the typology of the independent entrepreneur. And then Luther, 1975, talks about the manager or innovator, the growth-orientated owner entrepreneur, the owner refusing growth but seeking efficiency, the craftsman entrepreneur. So, let's try and relate our entrepreneurial ventures to this type of typology. So, the small entrepreneurial venture or the prospecting strategy in the Luther 1975, which one would it relate to of these 4? So which typology of Luther 1975 would it relate to? The small venture, humanitarian type entrepreneurial venture, prospecting strategy. Which one? Yes. Either the growth-orientated entrepreneur or the craftsman entrepreneur. So here we're relating it directly now. So we can say that, according to Luther 1975, he talks about 4 different typologies, and we can relate the micro and small entrepreneurial venture, humanitarian entrepreneurial venture, which is small, or the prospecting strategy venture, to the growth-orientated owner entrepreneur and the craftsman entrepreneur, as detailed by Luther 1975. What about the medium entrepreneurial venture? Which one could that be related to?
Is it for the same, would you relate it to the same Luther 1975?
Yes, which one could it be related to?
Again, that could be the second one, growth orientated.
Here is the medium-sized business or large organisation. You could relate it to the strategy of the defender. The defender, yes, with a medium business, you've got limited resources, you don't want to go everywhere, but now you want to defend what you have. So here you could say it could relate to the owner refusing growth but seeking efficiency. Because when you get to a certain size, you think, money's coming in now, I don't want to waste resources going everywhere, let's focus on what I've got, like BIC, and let's protect our market share. But let's become more efficient and effective in terms of what we're doing, so we're saving money in the business. Make sense? No? Yes? And then finally, the large entrepreneurial type venture for a large organisation could be the manager or innovator. The manager, where the manager is now managing the business. How big is Dyson? It's huge now, isn't it?
It's huge, very huge.
Yes. Do you know that Dyson actually went to Hoover and said, here's my product, sell it. They said, no, your product's not good enough. So, again, what we're doing is we're trying to relate it. If we look at Vespa 1990, Vespa 1990 talks about 11 different typologies. So the small business, the micro and small business entrepreneurial venture, the humanitarian small business venture, or the prospector, which one of these would it relate to? Yes, it will relate to number 1 of Vespa 1990, solo self-employed individuals. Because according to FOEC 1999, the humanitarian small business is predominantly owner-occupied. Predominantly. Not all the time, but predominantly. Okay? And then what about the medium entrepreneurial venture? Which one of these would it represent? The medium entrepreneurial venture. Medium-sized organizations.
Team builders.
Maybe team builders, yes. And what about the large organizational venture? With large organizations of 250 employees plus, representative maybe of a managerial type entrepreneur. Which one of these would it be? What could we relate it to in terms of the typologies?
Economy of scale.
Yes, maybe economies of scale, maybe conglomerate builders as well. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And see how we're relating it. Yeah? Okay, so back to the question. Examine different, given